It won't occur now until next month, and the sugar millers who are on the receiving end of this very bad code of conduct are doing some lobbying of their own. I'm doing some lobbying. I'm now reasonably optimistic that we will defeat the code in the disallowance motion. One of the factors that's changed is that the Labor Party has announced that they would agree to a sensible code of conduct, which is sort of like an ACCC has a number of codes of conduct which it has authorised, which are basically just statements of good faith, honest dealings and transparency, things like that. Nothing about running off to an arbitrator to impose rules on one side or the other, which is what the sugar code of conduct does. I would support that. I think it's probably not necessary, but on the basis that it would make some sugar growers, cane growers at least, a little more comfortable. A code of conduct which is a decent code of conduct, supported by Labor, would be supported by me. On that basis, I think there's going to be enough crossbenchers to disallow the current code, and then as soon as that occurs, then there will be negotiations on a new code of conduct.
Just clarify for me, who else in the crossbench do you think you'll find support from?
What's that?
Who else in the crossbench will find support?
That would be telling.
Okay. Just on the energy framework to come out of the party room today, from what we've heard so far, from what you've heard so far, what do you anticipate? Do you like the sound of what?
Yes, so far so good.
So far so good.
Yes. My concern all along has been that no one seems to be thinking about the people who can't afford to pay their electricity bills, the low-income people. No one seemed to be giving a damn about them, and they're an immediate concern. There are people who can't keep their heaters going during the winter time because they can't afford to pay their power bills. Likelihood is they don't even have air conditioning. If they do, they certainly can't afford to run it either when it gets hot. And then we'll have blackouts. We quite likely will have blackouts this summer anyway, especially if we get some very calm days, so that the wind towers aren't turning. And people will get stuck in lifts. There'll be medical equipment that can't run. There'll be all sorts of people missing out, and no one seems to be caring about them. All they're arguing about is carbon dioxide emissions. Seems to be a very perverted sense of priorities. So I'm pleased to see that the Liberals at least are starting to think along the right lines.
Obviously we haven't seen the details yet, but what do you think should or needs to be in there?
Well, what I've heard so far is what I've been saying now for quite a while. It should be technology neutral. So in other words, the government should not be playing favourites. At the moment, they force the coal and gas-fired generators to subsidise renewables. It's not legitimate. If renewables are going to be there, that's fine. I don't object to them in principle, as long as they don't get subsidised, as long as there's no favouritism involved. And of course, we need more generating capacity. The problem with prices going up is due to shortage of electricity. We need plentiful, low-cost electricity. It's been a fundamental strength of the Australian economy for decades, 100 years, and we've lost it now. We've got to get it back again.
Has the government proposed to you on proposed citizenship changes in terms of negotiating with crossbenchers on that?
Yeah, the government talked, some weeks ago, the government contacted me on that issue, so we had a discussion about it. I'm broadly in favour of what they're intending to do, but I hear they're having some difficulties getting the crossbench, or enough of the crossbench on board, but I don't know where they're up to at the moment.
You said you're broadly in favour, but are there any particular sticking points of view?
I don't think anything that would stop me voting for it. I've got an amendment which would increase the waiting period for citizenship to 10 years, similar to Switzerland. But I also think there's a case for that waiting period including the time in Australia, not just permanent residents. Could include temporary residents, such as from a student visa or something like that.
Just finally, Australia was elected to the UN Human Rights Council overnight. Do you think that's significant? What should Australia's priorities be in that council?
That Human Rights Council has a very spotty track record. I think other members are Saudi Arabia and Libya, and paragons of human rights. I suppose it's better to be there and to try and explain what genuine human rights are, but that organisation doesn't have much of a record when it comes to human rights.
Can Australia speak about genuine human rights, or what do you think of Australia's track record, I guess, as well?
Oh, quite good overall. It could do better, but quite good overall, and certainly in comparison to a number of other countries that have been on that human rights body, we're well ahead.
Which areas could we do better?
Well, we have equality before the law. We have freedom of worship, freedom of assembly. We have some weaknesses in relation to free speech. I think our laws intrude into our private lives too much beyond what is required, but as I said, compared to many other countries, we do fairly well. I think the United States is ahead of us on free speech. They have a First Amendment, of course, which helps to protect that, and we have to fight very hard to maintain our free speech. Okay.